October 31st to November 12th, only on WION. World is One. One trillion species, 7.8 billion humans, 1.9 million species extinct. One planet. Where are we heading? What should we do? Can the leaders save us? COP26 Summit, direct from Glasgow. October 31st to November 12th, only on WION. World is One.
Very important story. A famous tennis star in China has accused a former vice premier of sexual assault. This is like Me Too hitting the highest ranks of the Communist Party in China, the inner circle of Xi Jinping. Do you know how he responded? The tennis star has been silenced, her social media account has been blocked, public comments on the story disabled, any references to the allegations scrubbed off the internet in China. The entire state machinery has mobilized to bury the story of one woman. And they're failing. This story is on fire in China. Although it's not unique to China, women the world over suffer at the hands of powerful men and are silenced. Tonight, as many of our viewers in India and elsewhere celebrate the festival of Diwali, the one that marks the victory of good over evil, we want to highlight this story. We want to underline this evil, the prevalence of sexual predators, powerful sexual predators in our world. Also on the show, In Pakistan, Imran Khan surrenders to TLP radicals. Tehreek-e-Labbaik agrees to halt protests in exchange for political legitimacy. Guess what's trending in Turkey? President Erdogan's reportedly poor health. The Turkish cyber police are now cracking down on those asking these questions. Ethiopia declares a national emergency as Tigrayan rebels gain ground and close in on the capital. And we'll discuss the soft power of Diwali. It's a story you don't want to miss. We begin as always with Gravitas Global Headlines.
The World Health Organization has given approval to India's indigenous COVID-19 vaccine, Covaxin, for emergency use listing. The Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi had raised the issue of Covaxin approval with the WHO chief at the G20 summit. The Islamic State Khorasan has claimed responsibility for the Kabul military hospital attack in which top Taliban commander Maulvi Hamdullah Mukhlis was killed. China is battling a fresh COVID-19 outbreak despite strict curbs. The cases have risen to a nearly 3-month high ahead of the Communist Party conclave. Facebook has announced it is shutting down its facial recognition system, which automatically identifies users in photos and videos. The company cited growing societal concerns about the use of such technology. Gunmen in Nigeria's capital abducted 6 people from the staff quarters of a university. This is the first attack of its kind in Abuja since a wave of school kidnappings began in the country more than a year ago. Republican candidate Glenn Youngkin has won Virginia in the governor's race, pulling off a stunning upset in the race, which is seen as an early verdict on President Joe Biden's first year in office. A 4-year-old girl who went missing from an Australian campsite more than 2 weeks ago has been found during a raid at a locked house and has been returned safely to her parents. A man has been taken into custody in relation to the disappearance. 13 people have died after a mudslide caused by heavy rains in southwest Colombia engulfed a hotel. 9 people were pulled out alive, 2 of them in serious condition. Bayern Munich and Juventus are the first 2 teams through to the knockouts of the UEFA Champions League. Robert Lewandowski marked his 100th appearance in the competition with a hat-trick as Bayern thrashed Benfica 5-2 for their 4th consecutive win in Group E. Italians Juventus also stayed perfect after 4 games in Group H after a comfortable 4-2 win over Russian Zenit St. Petersburg. The Atlanta Braves have won their first World Series title since 1995 by crushing the Houston Astros 7-0 in Game 6 in Texas. Jorge Soler smashed a monster 3-run homer in the 3rd innings to get Atlanta going, while starting pitcher Max Fried also starred by throwing 6 scoreless innings. The Cuban Soler was unanimously named the World Series MVP.
Happy Diwali. It's a festival that marks the victory of good over evil. This victory in the Ramayana comes in the form of many stories you may have heard. The simplest and the most prominent story is this one. Ravan takes Sita to Lanka against her will. Ram slays him and they return home. Every year we celebrate this story. We talk about its relevance in our lives today. How we must slay the demons in our world. The many Ravans around us who force themselves on women. These predators, these demons must be defeated too. So this Diwali, as we wish you health and prosperity, we also urge you to take on such demons around you. And we start the show tonight with a story from China. A powerful man sexually assaults a woman, then uses his position to mentally torture her. He forces her to submit to his demands. The victim or the survivor is helpless. Forget about complaining. She can't even describe her ordeal to anyone because speaking out will have dangerous consequences. This is a story from China. This is the story of many, many women in many parts of the world. Some of them decided to speak out, and thus began the Me Too movement, women speaking out and exposing powerful men around them. It's a very difficult battle for any woman. Even more if she lives in a country like China, because here the entire state machinery can be unleashed to silence her. It's happening as we speak. Chinese censors are furiously scrubbing a story off the internet. They're trying to protect a very powerful man. His name is Zhang Gaoli, the former vice premier of China. He apparently sexually assaulted a woman. The woman in question was Peng Shuai, one of the biggest tennis stars of China, a former world #1 in doubles, a winner of the French Open and the Wimbledon. Peng Shuai was sexually assaulted by Zhang Gaoli. She apparently suffered for years, then decided to speak out. Late on Tuesday, she published this lengthy post on Weibo. It's like the Chinese Twitter. This is where she shared her story, and we've managed to get a copy of it. The allegations made in this post are appalling. A sexual predator in the top ranks of the Communist Party, serving at the highest levels of the Chinese government, Zhang Gaoli retired only 3 years back. And even now the Communist Party is protecting him, defending him. Before I tell you what he did, let me also tell you about this man. Who is this man? Zhang Gaoli is 75 years old now. He's an economist by education. He served as the governor of Shandong. He was also the party secretary of Tianjin. In 2013, he was appointed as the vice premier of China. This made him the 7th most powerful man in the country. He served as the vice premier for 5 years. He retired in 2018. The events in our story tonight span more than a decade. This man on your screen, Zhang Gaoli, first made contact with Peng Shuai in Tianjin, where he was serving as party secretary. The alleged assault took place 3 years ago. Zhang had invited Peng for a meal. He then pressured her to have sex. I'm now reading out the specific parts from Peng's post on Weibo. This is what she says. I never consented that afternoon, crying all the time. I wasn't willing after supper, and you said you hated me. You said you never forgot me in the 7 years and promised to be kind to me. With fear and panic, with my feelings from 7 years ago, I agreed. The 3 years that followed were apparently an ordeal for her. This is what she writes. I know that for someone of your eminence, Vice Premier Zhang Gaoli, you've said that you're not afraid, but even if it's just me, like an egg hitting a rock or a moth to the flame, courting self-destruction, I'll tell the truth about you. Peng says she was forced into a relationship with Zhang. It's horrible. It makes you angry. And this is not even a unique story. Like I said, a lot of women live this horror. What makes this story exceptional, an exceptional act of courage on the part of this woman, is that such stories are virtually unheard of in China. Never before have we heard of a senior Communist Party official being publicly accused of sexual assault. You can only imagine how much damage this can cause Xi Jinping. Which is why Beijing is doing everything it can to kill this story. Chinese censors have gone into an overdrive. They first went after Peng Shuai. Her post, the one that we read out to you, the excerpts, that post was deleted just 20 minutes after it went online. 20 minutes. Then Peng's Weibo account was blocked. No one was allowed to comment on her previous posts. Chinese censors did not stop there. They're making sure that people are not able to discuss these revelations anywhere on the internet in China, even on tennis forums. Online forums on tennis have been silenced in China. Comments on online pages of state media have been blocked. Comments on Chinese broadcaster CCTV's Weibo account have been disabled. This account alone has almost 24 million followers. China has unleashed a mass gag. And in public, Chinese officials are behaving like nothing has happened. China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs was asked about these allegations. The spokesperson said he'd not even heard about the post. And no one is surprised by this response. In China, the culture of silence prevails. In the past, women in media, at universities, in the private sector, they've all come forward with accusations of sexual assault. They said it's almost like a tradition in their country. Men in powerful positions demand sexual favors, and the system looks the other way. Even the country's top prosecuting agency agrees. In 2016, they released a report on the traits of corrupt officials in China. Do you know what featured prominently in that report? The exchange of quote-unquote power for sex recklessly. And when victims speak out, they face censorship and pushback. The most high-profile case of sexual assault in China emerged in 2018. A woman took a prominent television anchor to court only to be countersued for slander. A court in Beijing said there wasn't enough evidence, insufficient evidence, the grounds on which the case was dismissed. So predators escape and survivors are persecuted. The latest case is proof. The Communist Party mobilizing the might of the state to silence one woman. This country has gone rogue, which begs the question, what happens when a country goes rogue? It becomes a liability for the world. It does not contribute to the well-being of the global community. It adds to its troubles instead. China checks all these boxes. China exported a virus, it lied, people died, and now it is repeating the drill all over again, this time with climate. After COVID, China is now weaponizing climate inaction. I will tell you how. Let me recap the week for you. The United Nations organized a summit on climate change. Chinese President Xi Jinping did not attend. World leaders flew down to Glasgow. Xi Jinping did not. He was missing both in person and online. He did not even make the effort to join via video link. Why did he not? Well, China has an interesting explanation, and you won't believe what they said. China said, and I'm quoting, the conference organizers did not provide the video link method. So poor Xi Jinping could not join because he did not get the link. And all of the president's men could not pick up the phone and request a link. This country hopes to be a leader in technology someday. All its leadership claims are now being laughed upon.
But the fact that China, trying to assert, understandably, a new role in the world as a world leader, not showing up, come on.
Here's where China really missed COP26. Pandemic and petty politics. Xi Jinping does not have the face to face the world after exporting the Wuhan virus. That, and China is also playing politics. It says the world cannot expect China to cut down on coal production while also sanctioning Chinese solar equipment suppliers. Let me add some context here. The United States has imposed sanctions on Chinese solar suppliers linked to Xinjiang. These sanctions are for Xinjiang, what China is doing there. So not showing up is China's way of weaponizing climate inaction. The Dragon's latest designs can prove to be just as deadly as the pandemic. And here's why I say this. Currently, climate change is killing 5 million people every year. 2.6 million of these deaths are in Asia alone. Also in Asia is the world's biggest emitter of greenhouse gases. Who else but China? In 2019, it emitted 27% of the world's total greenhouse gases. China has also been the largest emitter of carbon dioxide. It emits 28% of the total CO2. China's emissions have tripled in the last 3 decades. Beijing is driving its economy by burning coal, and these emissions are wreaking havoc worldwide. There's global warming, forest fires, floods, droughts, heat waves, you name it. China, of all the countries, should have been there at Glasgow to address these problems, to discuss them at the very least. Beijing should have reviewed its policies, made amends and some honest promises. Instead, it chose to issue statements like this one.
What we need in order to deal with climate change is concrete action rather than empty words. China's actions in response to climate change are real.
We don't know about climate action, but China's moves in another department are real and dangerous. Beijing is in the middle of an unprecedented nuclear buildup. How do we know this? Because of satellite images. Look at this one. What you see is a missile silo field. In other words, it's a missile launch facility. So is China planning to launch a missile soon? It surely seems to be building up to a future launch. This facility was first spotted in June 2021. Look at the progress it has made since. The space was cleared on the 15th of August. And on the same day, the initial construction was done, an air dome was laid, inflated and completed. All of this happened in just one day. Now you understand why this build-up is being called unprecedented. As we speak, there is construction going on underneath this air dome. And this is all happening in Ordos, which is in north-central China. Similar constructions have also been spotted in Yumen, Jilantai and Hami. What exactly is happening in all of these places? The Federation of American Scientists says it's a top secret and highly sensitive construction program, their words. Reports say these silos are intended for missiles. There are at least 300 such silos under construction in China, 300. All of this is part of the PLA's modernization program. What's interesting is that Beijing has neither confirmed nor denied any of these reports. And that's how a rogue nation works, in the shadows, under air domes. The Federation of American Scientists also notes that such extensive silo construction has not been seen since the Cold War. China's conduct is hinting at nothing less than the start of another Cold War. It is exporting a virus, trying to profit from a global crisis, pulling off a no-show at critical events. This, like I said, is a country gone rogue. And speaking of rogue nations, Pakistan has made a risky promise, a risky compromise. It has allowed a radical outfit to contest elections again. And I know radical is a relative term anywhere in the world, especially in a country like Pakistan. We're talking about the radical outfit that has been running riot in the country. It has agreed to shun violence for the moment in exchange for political legitimacy. We're talking about the Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan, TLP, a group that has made violence its currency. Throughout this year, the TLP has held the Pakistani establishment hostage. They held violent protests, they killed policemen, injured civilians, blocked highways, destroyed public property, threatened French expats, and blackmailed the government, all in the name of their faith. The TLP has kept Pakistan on the edge since April. That's when their leader Saad Rizvi was arrested. He wanted Islamabad to expel the French ambassador. For what joy? Because France allowed depictions of the Prophet. Islamabad arrested Saad Rizvi and banned his outfit, the TLP. Its members went on a rampage, presenting themselves as crusaders of faith, proving that they can kill and also be killed for the cause. After failing to rein them in, the government has surrendered to these extremists. It has struck a deal with them. What does the deal say? Number one, Islamabad will lift the ban on the TLP, acknowledge them as a legitimate force. Number two, it will release the group's jail leader Saad Rizvi as well as 2,300 other members. Number three, it will remove the names of TLP members from its terror watch list. And number four, it will allow the TLP to contest elections again, which basically means the Tehreek-e-Labbaik will contest the next election in 2023. It won't be their first, by the way. The TLP fought the 2018 general election in Pakistan, and guess what? It emerged as the fifth largest party in the country, fifth largest. In the Punjab province, the TLP was the third largest party. They won 4 out of every 5 votes cast. And they pulled this off despite being a new party. So anyone calling the Tehreek-e-Labbaik a fringe may want to rethink. These extremists are mainstream in Pakistan. They were banned for a while, but they prevailed. The government has yielded to their demands now. How did the TLP win this? Because it has widespread support from the people, from the clergy, and from the army, especially from the army. The most important pocket of support. The TLP is said to be the army's creation, like most things in Pakistan. In 2017, the army used the TLP to destabilize and humiliate the PMLN government. It's Nawaz Sharif's party. The Tehreek held sit-ins. They brought the country to a standstill, and Nawaz Sharif's party lost the election. It was the army's plot, directed and sponsored by its generals. Look at this video from November 2017. It shows a Pakistani major general giving away money to TLP protesters, envelopes with 1,000 Pakistani rupees each. He calls them a gift. And he's telling protesters that the army stands with them.
सर ये हम कर लेंगे
नहीं आपकी तरफ कोई चले ये हमारी तरफ नहीं जनाब क्या हम आपके साथ नहीं है गुड गिफ्ट क्या हम आपके साथ नहीं है
आप नहीं बोलिए
इसमें कितने पैसे हैं
1000 हाँ ये देखिए हमारे बच्चों की बात सुनो
उन्होंने ना ऊपर जो बैठे हुए हैं ना उन्होंने खुद को आवाम को आपस में लड़ा के ना
ये सुन कितने अकल की बात है हमारे ये
सारे इंशाल्लाह सारे छुड़वाएंगे वो उधर हमको दीजिएगा ये वो हैं जो कि अभी हमें एक थाने से हमने निकाले हैं.
What is it they say about videos not aging well? Well, we can add this one to the list. The army is being more discreet this time. It denies a hand in the recent protests. But it's no secret that the generals are upset with Imran Khan. He tried to challenge their authority over the appointment of a new ISI chief. And almost on cue, a nightmare called TLP hit the government. It's a time-tested method. Unleash radicals, destabilize a government, install a puppet leader, and play this on repeat mode. The story of Pakistan in a nutshell. Now, handicapped leaders is one thing. But what happens when leaders refuse to give up power, especially when they're no longer fit to stay on? They handicap an entire nation. And such concerns are now brewing in Turkey. Several videos featuring Recep Tayyip Erdogan, their president, have gone viral. The Turkish president appears to be sick in these videos. He is not addressing any of these concerns, though. Instead, Erdogan is going after those who raise questions over his health. Here's a report.
This is Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Look closely at his feet. The Turkish president was leaving the hall. It looks like he is struggling to walk. Many on the internet agree. One man said Erdogan doesn't look well. Another tweet calls for his resignation. His images have triggered a debate. A hashtag has been trending in Turkey. He is dead. It suggested that Erdogan has died. The trend was misleading, but questions about the Turkish president's health are serious. Is Erdogan not keeping well? A series of videos like this one have surfaced this year. Erdogan doesn't look well in any of them. Look at this clip posted in February. Erdogan was climbing down the stairs. It looks like he needed some assistance from his wife. Here is another one. It emerged in August. Erdogan was at Anıtkabir, the mausoleum of Turkey's founder, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. Once again, it seems like he is struggling to walk. A lot of rumors are swirling about Erdogan's health. Some accounts say he has been forgetting things, complaining about breathing problems, feeling confused, and vomiting. There is a report that says Erdogan received an internal defibrillator implant. This is a device that stops abnormal heartbeats. Going by the same accounts, Erdogan now has more doctors around him than his staff. He has reduced his encounters with the press, and he takes painkillers before public events. Speculation like this is dangerous for any country, especially one that is dealing with an economic crisis. The prospects of instability is bad news, and Erdogan's response isn't helping. Instead of proving he is fit for the job, the president wants to punish those who are asking questions. The Turkish cyber police have launched an investigation. They will probe the tweets that question Erdogan's health. 30 individuals will face scrutiny. Ankara says the concerns around Erdogan's health are baseless. The Turkish government is engaging in a battle of narratives. Erdogan's aides are taking to social media. They are posting videos that show Erdogan in good health. Erdogan's director of communications shared this clip. It shows the president walking normally. Earlier, Ankara had put out this video. Here, Erdogan was playing basketball with his ministers at a time when the government must instill confidence in its people. It is fighting a video war with them. Bureau Report, World is One.
A state of emergency has been declared in Ethiopia. Communications, transport, public gatherings, they've all been suspended. Local administrations are being disbanded. Military leaders are being installed in their place. Firearm licenses are being issued to civilians. Homes and businesses of suspects are being raided. Any citizen could be detained without a warrant now. Any citizen above 18 can be called to fight. Why? Because rebel forces have declared war on the government. Armed fighters from the Tigray region are marching towards the country's capital. They're coming with one aim: topple the government of Abiy Ahmed. His removal, the rebels say, is now a foregone conclusion. But the Prime Minister is unrelenting. He promises to put up a fight to, quote-unquote, bury the enemy with our blood.
This pit, which is dug very deep, will be where the enemy will be buried, not where Ethiopia disintegrates. We will bury this enemy with our blood and bones and make the glory of Ethiopia high up again.
This was a 2019 Nobel Peace Prize winner talking, a Nobel laureate. Unfortunately, his words have done little to deter his enemies. If anything, they've strengthened their resolve. The president of the Tigray People's Liberation Front, the man leading the rebels to the capital, says his forces will destroy the government.
The warmongers decided to continue with the war, and we entered into this war because the only option we had is to destroy our enemies by force. The enemy has been engaged in large-scale war, moving all its force, but the result is destruction, loss, and a large number of deaths. It has been once again proved that the advance of our Tigray Defense Force is unstoppable.
So far, the capital has been relatively calm, but the residents are worried about what lies ahead. They fear Addis Ababa could meet the fate of other Ethiopian cities.
We do not want the fate of Dessie here in Addis Ababa. Some insurgents have entered the capital. We need to identify them. Otherwise, I do not doubt that what happened in Dessie will happen in Debre Berhan and Addis Ababa. These people are eating and drinking with us, and they are enemies of Ethiopia, and they need to be dismissed. And to do that, all of us need to cooperate with the state of emergency accordingly.
It worries me a lot because Dessie and Kombolcha are near Addis Ababa. They travel many kilometers to get there. I think they will control Addis Ababa as well.
The rebels may or may not win over the capital, but the lives of its 6 million residents will get upended anyway. They will have to live under emergency laws for 6 months. During this period, citizens fit for military service will be conscripted. Anyone suspected of supporting the rebels will be arrested. Homes and businesses of suspects would be arbitrarily searched, and anyone who opposes these rules could face at least 10 years in jail. The government says these measures are necessary because the rebel offensive is the most decisive yet. Look at this map on the screen. 2 important towns near the capital have fallen to the rebels. They're located just 380 kilometers away from Addis Ababa. The rebels are closing in on the capital, and they won't be alone to do so. They have support of smaller rebel groups like the Oromo Liberation Army. This group too wants Abiy Ahmed gone. So it is assisting the Tigrayan rebels in their fight. Which side is the world supporting? The government or the rebels? Honestly, it's hard to take a side. This conflict is way too complicated. Both sides have tortured and killed civilians. Both have been found guilty of war crimes. The United Nations says it's tough to pin the blame on any one side.
We have reasonable grounds to believe that during this period, all parties to the Tigray conflict have committed violations of international human rights, humanitarian and refugee law. Some of these may amount to war crimes and crimes against humanity. Civilians in Tigray have been subjected to brutal violence and suffering. The Joint Investigation Team uncovered numerous violations and abuses, including unlawful killings and extrajudicial executions, torture, sexual and gender-based violence, violations against refugees, and forced displacement of civilians.
It's a senseless war. It began in November 2020 when the Tigray People's Liberation Front seized some military bases in the Tigray region. This group had dominated national politics for 3 decades, but it lost much influence after Abiy Ahmed took office in 2018. So it captured military bases. A populist leader Ahmed decided to rein in this group. He sent more troops to the Tigray region to regain control of the bases. And this led to a war that continues to this day, a war that has killed thousands and displaced millions. Now, with the rebel forces marching to the capital, the war is only set to get more fierce. We'll be tracking that. For the moment, let's turn to North Korea. Kim Jong-un will soon celebrate the 10th anniversary of his succession. The North Korean dictator has some special plans for this occasion. Photographs of Kim Jong-un's ancestors are being removed. The state mouthpieces have given him a new title, the Great Leader, and Kim has coined a new doctrine, Kim Jong-unism, to glorify his reign. What is all of this about? Our next report has the details.
Kim Jong-un rose to power 10 years ago. When he took over from his father, many observers expressed doubts. They thought he wouldn't survive. But a decade after his rise, Kim Jong-un is putting his stamp of authority on North Korea. Reports say official buildings in Pyongyang are getting a makeover. Portraits of Kim's father, Kim Jong-il, and his grandfather, Kim Il-sung, have been removed. A new doctrine is being pushed. It is called Kim Jong-unism. What does that mean? No one except Kim Jong-un can answer that question. Experts offer some insights. They say Kim Jong-unism is not an ideology. It is nothing more than a label used to glorify the North Korean dictator. Kim Jong-un's ancestors used similar tactics to reaffirm their grip on power. Kim Il-sung had coined Kim Il-sungism. When he picked Kim Jong-il as his successor, a new term was coined, Kim Il-sungism, Kim Jong-ilism, a reference to both the leaders. Now, Kim Jong-un has come up with his own doctrine, just before the 10th anniversary of his succession. North Korean mouthpieces now call Kim the Great Leader. This term was earlier reserved for Kim Il-sung, the founder of North Korea. With these moves, Kim Jong-un is sending a signal. He wants to break away from the shadow of his ancestors. It's not reflecting in his practices, though. North Korea still remains a global pariah, thanks to its nuclear program. Pyongyang is relentlessly conducting missile tests, even as millions of North Koreans are starving. The Kim regime tolerates no dissent. The United Nations has accused it of atrocities like torture, rape, forced abortions, and forced disappearances. Kim Jong-un might use different labels to justify his brutality, but in the eyes of the world, he still remains a dictator. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Coming back to Diwali, what are your plans for the festival? Let me show you how the United Arab Emirates is celebrating Diwali.
In praise of the king and queen.
That's like a bridal night.
हाँ ये वाला बहुत सिंपल सोवर है.
Preparations for Diwali are also on in full swing in Malaysia. Take a look at these images. The United States is also celebrating Diwali. Allow me to tell you how. America is introducing a resolution to declare Diwali a federal holiday, meaning if this bill is passed, Diwali will be a national holiday in the US, just like it is in India. If passed, the bill will honor 5 million Indian Americans. They make 1.2% of the American population, 1 in every 10 tech workers, 1 in every 3 co-founders of a startup, 9% of the doctors who serve every 7th patient in the US, Indian Americans. America is taking a step to recognize their contribution, recognize their culture, the Indian culture. The bill gives Indian Americans the chance to celebrate Diwali thousands of miles away from India. It also gives 332 million Americans the chance to participate in Diwali festivities. Every year, the White House lights a diya on Diwali. The tradition began with Barack Obama when he was president in 2019. Donald Trump maintained it. He lit a diya in the Oval Office for every Diwali he spent there. Not too far away from the United States, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was also seen lighting a diya. When the Wuhan virus pandemic struck last year, Trudeau moved the celebration online.
At the heart of this festival is the idea that light, good, and knowledge will always triumph over darkness, evil, and ignorance.
This, we say, is the soft power of Diwali. Every year, Diwali messages pour in from around the world. From America, Africa, Asian countries, Australia, leaders make it a point to send a special message to the world on Diwali. Let us show you what the President of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, said last year. Let us borrow a leaf, he says, from our Hindu, Sikh and Gujarati brothers and sisters and embrace knowledge over ignorance, good over evil and light over darkness. This is the Kenyan president. Let us love one another, learn from one another and continue to build bridges of understanding, tolerance and development for the prosperity of our great nation. You see, the soft power of Diwali lies in the pure messaging of the festival. Diwali celebrates goodness, it celebrates peace and brotherhood. Do you know there's something called the Diwali Power of One Awards? It is co-sponsored by 26 United Nations missions, 26 UN missions. The awards recognize diplomats at the UN for their contribution to peace. In 2018, for example, Vietnam's former permanent representative to the United Nations was honored. This was for Vietnam's rapprochement with the US. Thailand's ambassador to the US, Virachai Plasai, was also honored. This was for his leadership at the Group of 77 developing countries at the UN. Here's something Belarus's permanent representative to the UN said at the awards. Diwali's quote-unquote spirit of peace and charity is in lockstep with the ideals of the United Nations. Here's why people celebrate Diwali. It marks the return of Lord Ram to Ayodhya after defeating demon king Ravan and spending 14 years in exile. For many communities, Diwali also marks the start of a new year. In some communities, Diwali is celebrated in honor of goddess Kali. It is believed that she went on a rampage to rid the earth of all demons. The essence of this festival lies in the celebrating of victory, the victory of good over evil, celebrating a new start, and these messages resonate with countries worldwide, no matter how mighty or tiny. The charm of this festival is unmatched. It spreads the message of harmony and brotherhood. It encourages people to celebrate together, light a diya together, share gifts, sweets, feast together. Come to think of it, Diwali is a very fun and attractive festival. It's no wonder Diwali celebrations are among the most colorful nights at embassies around the world. Diwali also has a lot to offer for those seeking a quiet time at home. Diwali, like yoga, has a deep spiritual meaning. Here's something the Indian philosophy of Vedanta says. A person must fill his heart with the oil of love, light the wick with the knowledge of truth, and ward off ignorance. Diwali is about connecting with one's inner light, just like yoga is about connecting with one's inner soul, one's soul. Diwali, like yoga, is India's gift to the world. It brings together people from across religions. Jains believe that Lord Mahavir attained nirvana or eternal bliss on Diwali. It's auspicious for Sikhs too. It was on Diwali that the 6th Sikh Guru, Hargobind, was freed from Mughal Emperor Jahangir's captivity. In 2016, the United States inaugurated the Diwali stamp. It's now 5 years old. Every year, Diwali is celebrated in the temples of Cambodia, on the beaches of Bali, in the islands of Mauritius. It's a public holiday in Fiji, a public holiday in Malaysia. Diwali is one of the most prominent festivals in Sri Lanka. Nepal celebrates its animals on Diwali. Every time a diya is lit anywhere around the world, it shines light on India's soft power. It spreads the light of happiness and India's message of peace. Here's how we say it in India. Tamaso ma jyotirgamay. May the light of knowledge remove the darkness of ignorance. So here's wishing a happy Diwali to all of you. And since we're talking about removing ignorance, have you heard of something called conversion therapy? It's a dangerous practice that targets the LGBTQ community. It seeks to change their sexual behavior or gender identity. In most countries, this practice is either banned or doesn't exist at all. In the United Kingdom, though, it remains legal. A new report hints that the British government could now be trying to mainstream this practice. According to the report, ministers at Britain's Equalities Office held a secret meeting with an organization that delivers this practice. What are they doing this for? Our next report has the answers.
Conversion therapy is a practice aimed at changing someone's sexual orientation. It is primarily aimed at the LGBTQ community and regards homosexuality as a mental disorder that can be treated. This practice is widely accepted to be unethical and potentially harmful. But in the United Kingdom, it remains legal. So don't be surprised if we tell you that the British government is trying to mainstream this practice. According to a new report by Vice Media, officials from UK's Government Equalities Office organised a private meeting with leaders of a group that delivers a form of conversion therapy. The group's name is Core Issues Trust. It is a Christian fundamentalist organisation that promises to cure homosexual behaviour and feelings. In June, this group was reportedly invited to meet the UK's Equalities Minister, Kemi Badenoch, following which it claims to have sent copies of its new book to every single British MP. The book, which is available on Amazon for £16, features stories from people who claim they are former homosexuals or have turned away from their previous LGBTQ lifestyles. It's bizarre that such a book exists. What's worse is that British parliamentarians are reading such books. What are they up to? In April this year, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson was accused of creating a loophole in his proposed conversion therapy ban. He suggested that the ban will not apply to religious organisations indulging in the practice. Then in August, the British government was accused of burying a report into a people's experiences of conversion therapy. Now a new report claims that British MPs are meeting with people that promote this appalling practice. Clearly, 10 Downing has some serious explanations to give. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
With that, it's a wrap. Here's wishing all of you a very happy Diwali. Thanks very much for watching. We leave you with Gravitas images.
one World Trade Center that is the one where the impact.
The cause of India's freedom for many years.
I, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr.
America is a constant work in progress.
One trillion species. 7.8 billion humans. 1.9 million species extinct. One planet. Where are we heading? What should we do? Can the leaders save us? COP26 Summit, direct from Glasgow, October 31st to November 12th, only on WION. World is One. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One. It's code red for humanity. The alarm bells are deafening. Wildfires, floods and hurricanes. Extreme climate events warn of impending doom. Is the world heading towards a climate catastrophe? Watch WION's Climate Tracker weekdays at 12 p.m. GMT, 5:30 p.m. IST. It's the season of giving. Are you looking for tech gifts for your loved ones? From audio systems to wearables and health-centric devices, we've gathered a comprehensive list of gadgets you should consider putting on your gift shopping list. See our top picks on Tech It Out. Only on WION at these times. WION, now available on Spotify and